So okay, so welcome to this first quick Docassemble tutorial. I hope this will give you a good example of what I was able to create in wasn't a huge amount of time, and I think it's been enlightening for me to see how this works, and I'm excited to learn more because I think it's going to be a really useful tool. So anyway, let's just dive in. So first thing you need to do is sign in, and you may get a different screen depending on what you first see, but basically you need to go to the playground. I'll have a different menu to you because I'm the admin, so I've got various things so I can control what we can all see. And this is a new one that I was working on, but the one I want to show and demonstrate for you is a document that Lorna had sent to us, or to me, sorry, which explained how to put, I think it was an assignment or a notice to assign or something like that. So apologies, this is not going to be a explanation of the law in any way because this isn't my area of law, and well, I think I understand what's happening. I've had to make some just a couple of adjustments just to demonstrate what I'm trying to show you, which is the technology, not necessarily the law itself. So if you go to templates, and in fact, let's delete that. So the first thing you do when you're going to make a Docassemble document is start with your template. So you should all be able to see my screen. And there's a conversation about something else. So let me open this. So this is the document that Lorna had sent. And I have gone through, I've edited and put in these curly braces. And this is a markup, or the curly braces are represented by something called Ginger or Ginger 2. That's Jinja, which is just a language or sort of a markup language that allows the code to know where to insert your variables. So landlord would be a variable, tenant would be a variable, assignment would be a variable, etc. So what I did when Lorna sent me the document was just go through and look at all the things that were going to be variables that I'd want to insert and inject. And importantly, we can have conditional parts as well. So you'll see that not all of these transactions would have a guarantor, but where they do, we want to be able to dynamically insert them in. So the way you phrase that is, if I wanted to have a new conditional, so you always start with, so unlike the double curly braces, the part that identifies where the code sits is here. So it's the curly brace percentage sign and then what goes inside. So then you can write your statements. So you say if, and the reason I've used guarantor is because that variable will be a Boolean, so true or false, as we'll see from the interview that I've created. So then you can say, so if guarantor, and you could write equals true, but you don't have to. You can just, actually it probably be double equals true, so actually evaluates to true. But that in itself, just writing if guarantor, if that is true, then the code will run and it will look over this. And then you can put into it, say I have a guarantor. And then, importantly, you can do your else part. So else, oops, I don't have a guarantor. And in fact, I might leave this in, so when we do this, so you can see. And then you always need to close it with your end if, so the end of the if statement. So, okay. Further down in the document then, we've got various things that we can carry on inserting. So I've tried to be as comprehensive as possible with this. I think I need to also define tenant admin area here. And let's do that. And you'll see we've got things like the landlord company number, the address, tenant company number, address, same for the assignee. There's this part here again about if we have a guarantor, then put the guarantor's details in, and if we don't, then leave it out. You'll just leave it out if it's not true. So I went through all of this. I'm not going to show you all of these, but you'll see from the questions how this starts to get inserted and injected in. There's another conditional part there. And it will take time to understand how the document works. I think it's great that PLC kind of gives you the if-or situations. It will often have square brackets or something else in square brackets. And you can use those as a guide to write questions and logic around it. So it's pretty cool. So there's something here, which bank holiday? The answers to this will either be England or Wales, and you'll see what I've done in a second. So basically, let's save this document so then I can upload it in. So it's now saved, and I might try. Well, I'll leave it up. I'll leave it up. So now if I choose browse and upload it, press upload, it's now in Docassemble. And you'll see that it's missing that tenant admin area because I did define all of these in my other parts, but not that one. So we'll do that together. So this is where the power comes in. You'll need to understand how to write YAML, which is how this is formatted and set out here. In YAML, like Python, indentations are really important. So you'll see that things are phrased here. They have they're tabbed in, and these markers here are specific. They need to be included. It's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of familiarity to do with it, and it's very clean and very easy to read as you go through. YAML's supposed to be your friend, not something challenging to work with. So I mentioned that we need to define tenant admin area. The cool thing about Docassemble is that when you upload a document, it goes through and it will tell you all the undefined names. It's actively looking for those curly braces and the things you've written in there. So then you are then required to write questions around it to make these things disappear. So knowing that somewhere down here, I probably have, admin area. So in here, I need to write tenants, title, number. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm supposed to write administrative area. And actually, let's make that clearer. So it's landlords, then tenants. I don't quite understand why the document needs that, but whatever, it's in there. And then instead of typing things out, you can just click on it and it will insert it in there. So that's great. You see the formatting. It's got a bit of highlighting. You see it doesn't like that. It wants it to have space, etc., etc. And then if I press save, then it pops away. So it still tells you all the variables that you've defined, and we'll go from there. So looking through my questions, you'll see that the first thing I've asked is who is the landlord, and just some basic details. Who is the tenant? Same details. Who is the assignee, etc. Is there a guarantor? Yes or no? And then, depending on that, if there is a guarantor, then we want the guarantor's details to be prompted. I haven't quite figured out how to force this to come straight after these questions. You'll see, but there are ways to hard type the logic of the interview into Docassemble. And again, another show if guarantor is true. So if the guarantor has been selected, so if yes is selected, then it will allow us to ask this question too, where we describe the guarantee agreement. Okay, so I think that explains the majority of what I wanted to show you quickly. Then at the end, you must have what we call an end point, if you will, sort of a resolution as to what happens. And when you put this in, the way this is constructed is you click on PDF, how you want the document to be created. In our cases, we use a docx template, and then you click on insert. So that's the second thing you do. And I'll show a video where we do one from scratch together. But for now, I just wanted to show you this part. So as we insert that in, and I'll insert and delete it, just so you can see. So you press insert, and it just pops all of that in for you there. And you need to write mandatory. I can't spell. Sorry, mandatory true. It needs to have that in there to fire off and work properly. But you'll see as the default document that's written is that, and it actually needs to be. You need to click on oops, sorry, that instead. So you can always look over here to see what templates are available to you and make sure it's that, otherwise it will throw an error. But let's delete that out because we don't need it right now. And we can stick with that. So let's just save that again. So let's have a little test. So let's do a save and run. Okay, so company name. I don't have any details. I'm going to have to make this up as I go along, but let's do 123 Company Limited. I'm not very clever or creative, sorry. So address 123 High Street, Bath, BA1 2HQ. You'll be familiar with that, and I'll be the director of this one. So then the tenant, ABC Tenant Limited. Let's make up a company number. Superhouse. BA65BP. And then Lorna, you can be, is it Med? Just checking, what's the last name? Yeah, Med Craft. You've got the honour of being the tenant. So the assignee, let's do Cheeky Go Limited. Address. God, it's so hard to be creative with this stuff. And then Dan, you can be the director of that one. So is there a guarantor? Okay, so I'd like to show you one where we say no to start with, and then I'll come back and perhaps show you another one. So date of the original lease. All right, this bit's been bothering me because I can't quite get it to be in the UK date format, but let's see what happens. No, so okay. So it's making me put it into US format. So actually, so I just approve it. So that will be like 22. Yep. So month, date, year. So I need to find a way to change that, but also if it's ever inserted into the document, that it comes out in a date format that we know. And that's where using Python will be really helpful, because it's nicer to have that out in words instead. There are various things you can do to play with the data and how it's inserted and how it's pushed into the document. But we'll just go from that. So let's have parties, well, folks, and to, sorry, who knows? I don't know if this makes sense in terms of the document, but let's pretend it does. There we go. So landlord's title number. And then sort of, let's pretend administrative area. Oops, let's do. Who knows if that makes sense, but let's go for it. So bank holidays, that's one of the questions. I think it was in looking at the precedent. So we'll click England. Duration of consent, this is just a free text box, so we'll do 2 months. Further conditions, must be sensible. Again, apologies. Registration fee. This is again something, you've coded this, so it asks for a currency and has the symbol. So let's say 4,000. I need to enter a number, so I don't think it likes the comma. Yes, okay. Fine. Okay, so my document has been generated. I haven't yet set up an emailing system, which is why none of your user registrations came through. It's something I have to just do separately in configuring Docassemble, so it has basically a provider that will send emails out. However, it should give me a PDF. Now, this is great because it's got the bits I need and actually some of my logic. I need to actually put the logic statement around this bit. But remember when I typed that bit in before, saying I don't have a guarantor? That's cool to see because that's the else part of this statement. So else. So when I'm going to adapt this, that needs to go here to capture the and. That will be much better. So this bit has shown up because I pressed no. So that's some of the power you can see here. And it's one of the most annoying things I find in documents, that there's lots of things like that if I just knew the answer and let it flow through, I wouldn't have to go through and delete it. And also, if I ever wanted to go back and change it, I could. So yeah, so that's coming through nicely. Let's go down. All these parts are popping in. It's great. What I'd like to do as well is make sure this comes out formatted in bold caps, and this as well, and just get all the formatting done. And the way I see Docassemble working is it provides rails, which as long as you stay inside the rails, you're going to get a nicely drafted document that comes out in the form that we need it to. So as well, some of the other cool parts is that, that speeds up the drafting process is that usually some details are entered in multiple places, and when it comes to like signature clauses, look, because signed as deed by and because we put the director in, we know it's me there, Lorna there. Let's cut that. See, I don't like that trailing, that comma there being out. So let's just go check my draft markup. I've probably got, which one was it? Actually, it was the tenant. That's probably better. And obviously, you'd obviously have a bit more in terms of the execution part. Yes, but it worked. It did what I wanted it to do, and it injected all of the data in the right places. Now, I think between us, we could bash out a few of these, and essentially what relatively quickly to show people, but what Docassemble will allow you to do is to publish this. So then when it's published, you just have a link that you could send to somebody, and then they just work through that. It's the template is already saved for them. They don't have to do anything other than fill in the form, and then the document will be generated. And I wish I could go back. Oh yeah, I can. So I don't only have to generate as a PDF that I just showed you. You can also have an actual Word document here. So okay, it comes out as letter 2. There are ways to do that, to change that, but we can go in and amend things as we need to. So you can have a fully working docx that comes out in the house style in the way we need it to. So yeah, I hope that gives you some insight as to how you can create these forms really quickly. I've played around with things like Typeform a lot, and they are good and really useful, but to get it to actually generate a document requires further integrations in other parts. And also this is neater in the sense we're all used to working from precedents, so we can just get the precedent, add in all the variables, add in a bit of logic around things, upload it, and then go from there. So let me know what you think, and what I want to show you next is how we can do more Python-y type things in it. Some of these things I threw together after looking in more detail aren't best practices. So rather than just having fields and defining the variables, what we actually want to do is use an object and define things like landlord as being an object, in the sense that it's a company entity. Company entities have all sorts of bits of data that we could use, and then also to create multiple documents, so that we're not just generating the review document straight away, but maybe we could also have a button to say, do you want to generate an engagement letter now, or a draft one, or do you want to perform some other tasks? I think it's quite a lot we could do. Obviously, I'm keen just to do easy wins to start with before we spend too much time on this, but I've been impressed, and that didn't take me that long to write this bit out. You can see in terms of the amount of code, it's just each code block is separated as a question. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are my conditional ones as well that we didn't use that time. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so 15 questions, and that's all we had to write, and that allowed us to generate a document. So yeah, I'm impressed. So okay, I'm going to end the video and just send this to you. I'm going to make a more polished video, which will a new polished video, which will show you how to make one entirely from scratch, and which has some slightly more sophisticated logic in it. But we'll come on to that as I learn more about Docassemble.